Ladies and gentlemen, we're down here at the Jimmy Hart Hall of Fame bar in beautiful Daytona, Florida. You know, Jimmy Hart is my best friend in the whole world, and he and I are the true masters of wrestling ring music.
Jimmy! Jimmy! Hey, buddy!
Oh, no, brother! All right. Here's the legend himself,
let me tell you something. This is Jim Maguire. All the songs that you used to hear, that we did Sexy Boy, we did the Road Warriors, we did one of my favorites, the Rougeau Brothers. We don't like heavy metal, we don't like rock and roll. All we like to listen to is Barry Manilow. Hey! We did Hulk's American Made. So many of the things. This is Jim Maguire. Man, thanks for coming to my beach bar here in Daytona Beach, Florida. But, you know, you said lovely day. It's pouring down rain outside tonight. Is he joking? Is he kidding me? His guy lives in Somerset, Kentucky. Back when I was in Memphis so many years ago, when I had my Gentry group, he came in and joined us. He played keyboards, he played drums, he played guitar, he played it all. One-man band. Jimmy, you got a big wrestling company going on up in Somerset, don't you?
Yes, sir, we do. Kentucky's own wrestling. And if we play our cards right, we're going to get the legend himself, the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, up there.
Well, first of all, you ain't getting me up there because I don't play cards. I love you, baby!
Okay, Jimmy. See ya.
From 8:05 to 9 p.m. every Thursday on Village Connection Radio. Arriba!
Magnificent Mike? Really? Wow, you're gonna have to work a lot harder to impress the goddess of WWE, Alexa Bliss. Sorry, Mike.
All right, welcome back to another Thursday edition of Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, only here at Village Connection Radio, live in Rockstar Studios. At the helm is the station manager, co-host of the In Crowd, co-host of Miller and the Rockstar, and just an overall fantastic guy. Steve Miller, how are you, buddy?
Hi, Mike.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
By the way, it was my screw up that started the show late, so I take full responsibility.
It doesn't really bother Monte and the Pharaoh, right?
It bothers Noah.
I like the intensity though. That was great. Start over. No, that's cool.
And let's not forget, to my right is the star of Monte and the Pharaoh, star of 5 Minutes with the Pharaoh, lead singer for Wisteria Hall, lead singer for Electric Sunset.
Oh, hey.
There he is, Mr. Jimmy Pharaoh.
Hello out there in TV land, back for another magnificent week with Magnificent Monte. What's going
hello.
on?
That's a long time coming. So how was your weekend, buddy?
It was okay. Came and went. You know, the usual.
I caught 5 Minutes of Pharaoh this week.
Yeah.
Another good episode. I see that you have finally made your long-awaited return to the Mecca, Madison Square Garden.
Mecca, what a wrecka. Knicks are terrible. Yeah, I saw my first Knick game in a million years. Horrible
Do you remember the first Knick game you ever went to?
Yeah.
Did you have butterflies in your stomach?
I was very excited. I was just a little boy. My father took me. Now, we were living in Jersey at the time, and the Nets were playing at Rutgers Gym. It was their first year in the NBA.
Okay.
And because we were in Jersey, I wanted to see the Knicks. We were Knicks fans, but we also were watching the Nets. They had just come to the town, so we were watching them. But I asked my father, can we see the Knicks? Because I wanted to get a glimpse of the great Walt Frazier before they...
Oh, so you saw Walt.
I saw Pearl. You know, I got to see the Pearl. I wanted to see Earl Monroe. He was my personal favorite. So, like, I got to see some of the remnants of the great championship Knick teams. And I actually do remember the second title because we had moved to Jersey, and my father plopped me in front of the TV, and I watched the Knicks take down the Lakers in '73. So I actually do remember that title. I was just a, little kid. But going back to the Garden has been redone. I'm sure that this is passé for most of you, but I haven't seen it completely redone.
First of all, I'm impressed that you're using the word passé.
Yeah, well, you know, I paid little attention in school. That's why Streb used to shake his head at me. He was like, "You're so smart, I don't understand." I'm
You're a pretty smart guy, dude.
You are a smart guy,
Sorry,
Pharaoh.
Mr. Streb. Boy, that guy was strong. He was like Darth Vader. Picked me up one time. Where were the rebel plans?
Yeah, dude, when you're 15, when you're 15 years
that's
old,
true.
anybody's going to pick you up. I mean, come on,
when
let's
I was
get realistic
15.
here.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you know.
He wouldn't be lifting you up if it was the same. You were this age and he was that age.
Down.
This is the man that took down Marty Jannetty with the scissors.
Oh, would you stop? Oh my God, he's on the. I can hear him on
Pharaoh
the phone already.
freaking slammed Marty Jannetty.
Stop it,
dude!
you stop?
Literally housed Marty Jannetty.
You gotta stop.
Well, you did.
Better yet,
that
he saved me. That was the most important.
saved-
That's the only thing that was going on in my head. Whatever.
I'm shocked you didn't use the claw.
I was actually, again,
I like
going to
the
do my
plan you
backflip.
had, though. The backflips, kicking off the wall, a flying RKO.
Insegura.
You know, it's funny. I made a video.
That was me,
I made a video this week. I kind of slowed it down a little bit. That fucking dude popped me, man.
Yeah.
He hit you pretty hard.
Fucking
Yeah, no,
popped
he
me
did.
pretty fucking
He
hard.
hit you pretty
did.
hard. But it didn't do much to you.
I'm a fat fuck. That's why.
Is that what? Padding? Facial padding?
That's what it is. He got all this fat around his.
Oh, my God.
Layers, my man, layers.
Wow.
Layers.
Interesting. Oy.
So, I don't want to come off snobbish.
You?
You know, again, I want to, but you know, I was thinking when I was watching, I felt really good for you sitting at the Garden and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
God, I would never sit in those seats.
Why?
I just,
What's wrong with the seats?
I don't know, man. It's like
What are you
I'm just
talking
like
about?
once you get the taste.
Oh,
of
you
like
gotta be
being,
up front.
I got, you know
Oh,
me.
Yes.
I'm just
Oh,
out of control.
stop.
It's like I think to
Those
myself,
were great seats.
Dude.
I enjoyed
I
every
know, I
second of
know.
that.
I'm just like become a stuck up little
Oh,
bitch.
Dude, me and you are absolutely on the same plane. bro.
Wow. That's
Oh,
messed
I'm in
up.
section 200. Not going.
Oh my God!
Not going.
I used to live in the blue seats for
Sorry.
the Ranger games. What are you talking?
Yeah,
I learned my
15.
lesson at Evolution. Whatever.
What? I don't 40.
I don't go
Blue
anymore.
seats. They're
At
on.
Revolution.
Evolution, whatever that wrestling match was,
yeah.
and I sat on the floor. It was terrible. I'll never do it again. But I had to sit on the floor seats. I'll be honest with you. I should have sat where you guys were at Raw that time.
That was great.
Those were good seats.
Those were good seats.
But my seats were pretty good.
But the
They-
Knicks are terrible.
They're really sucky.
Wow.
They're
They
The
really
Knicks,
sucky.
I wouldn't know
Nothing
any
to
of the
cheer
Knicks
for.
if I hit them with my car.
Back in the day,
bad,
I used to go to
man.
Knick games, and when I
They're
worked
right
at JFK, I used to sit second row. I think I
Yep.
sat behind
Well,
Stern.
for
I
Ewing,
sat
during the Ewing days?
Oh yeah,
Come on.
dude, it was so.
No wonder
great.
you don't want to go back
great.
upstairs.
Yeah, it was
But
great.
the way the team is, you should go upstairs. Stay as far away from them as possible.
They
sit up at the
stink.
top. They're
I mean, I'm just thinking, you know, again, we're just jinxed. The New York sports, I don't know what happened to us, but we are jinxed.
No, you know what it is that our organizations don't make the right decisions. I mean, they don't bring in the right people to make the right decisions. Look at the Islanders. For example, Bart's at the game tonight. Larry's at the game tonight. Tavares is back in town.
Yes.
First game back. And look what the Islanders did. They have stunk for years and years. So what do? They hire Lou Lamoriello. Genius. He brings in the Stanley Cup coach who just won a cup with the Capitals. Genius. Takes all that money from Tavares and spreads it out and makes a team. Genius. You have to get a genius.
So here's my
And
counterpoint.
you got to hire the right
I've
people.
seen
the
this.
Islanders have the fifth best record in the
I
entire
guess what
NHL
though?
this year.
I've seen this
What's
story
going
before.
on?
I've seen Pat Riley.
Yeah, but
I've
it
seen
worked.
Bill Parsons. Yeah, it worked, but it never got us a title.
Oh, come
so the
on.
Islanders
What
will
about
be
Mike
out in the
Keenan?
second
What
round.
about Mike Keenan? That worked, and he
that
came
worked.
with the resume. He was here for 1 year. Boom, here's your cup. See you
But
later.
again,
Bye.
next year we
Boy,
flopped, and after that we flopped, and
All
after
right.
that we flopped, and then
Yeah,
we
the
made
Rangers
the finals
also have the
and
most
whatever.
playoff victories in the last 10 years.
Yeah,
Listen,
I-
all I'm saying is, look.
You know?
As a Jet fan, I just need a Super Bowl. As a Yankee
Look, we're
fan,
taking-
my
we're
expectation
Jet
is to
Knick
win the
fans.
World Series every year.
The Yankees-
As a Knick fan, I want to throw up in my mouth.
Right.
And as a Ranger fan, you know what? The Rangers gave us a lot of good years.
They have.
Yeah, but they, you know what? I saw the Ranger game
Not
last
enough
night. The
titles,
Rangers
though.
looked
Jeez.
excellent. Oh, no. I was watching Tampa, who has all the Rangers on there.
That's
on their
right.
fucking
That's
team.
right.
It's infuriating.
That's
You're so
that's
right,
Tortorella
dude.
East.
yeah,
basically.
why?
You know?
Why?
Well, because you know what? The Rangers got to turn it over, man. You know,
No, they don't. Not with a bunch
got to
of...
get rid of Lundqvist. He's a loser.
He
dude.
won't waive
He's
his
a
no
loser.
trade.
He's a
He won't
loser.
waive
He's got to
his
let
no
it
trade.
go. It's
He
not
loves
that he's.
living in
It's
New
not
York.
that he's a loser. It's just that it's
He's a
run its
loser.
course.
All right,
He's
here's
a
a little
loser.
trivia.
Go ahead.
What's the last New
Great
York
goalie.
team to make a final?
What is that?
The last New York team to make
the
a league
Giants?
final. Nope.
What, the Rangers when they lost in 2014?
Nope.
Who?
the New York Metropolitans in
Oh, the Mets.
2015.
See, we already forgot about that. That's
No,
not
not
Make
me.
the finals or
Of
what?
course
What you
you
mean,
don't
like the
forget about
the World
championship?
Series.
Yeah, the
the
Mets.
World
Yeah.
Series.
2015. It'll
Mets
last
are good
me-
for like every 14 years to
Yeah,
do
they get
something,
there. They
and then
do-
they fall
And
apart
once
again.
a decade.
Yeah,
Yes.
Listen,
something
I
like
grew
that.
up a huge Met fan, man.
Yeah, I remember.
You know,
I'm
what
still a
ruined it for
huge
me
Met
was
fan.
Bobby Valentine, Bobby Bonilla, and most of all, John
Valentine
Franco.
was way after Bonilla.
John Franco. No, but every time I tried to regain that Met feeling,
Oh, you couldn't take it when they lost in 2000.
he's an asshole.
Oh,
Valentine. And Bonilla's an asshole. And John Franco, that guy's the biggest stiff walking. Everybody talks about a great reliever. That guy used to beat up on me batting. You know what I mean? And then,
Yes.
you know,
Oh, my
ridiculous.
I was not. I'm a
You're
Met
not,
fan,
not
and
exactly goose gossage. Is that what
No.
you're telling me?
And you're not.
I am a Met fan, and I despise John Franco.
Really?
Every time he came in the game, I was like,
Boy, you
over.
must have really loved Benitez, huh?
Well, no, Benitez only blew like 2 games a year. They always happen to be against the Yankees and the Braves.
So, before we get to our guest, I wanted to talk about the Page movie that you guys are making fun of. It seems like it
You
has
were
done.
too. That we were making fun. We were all freaking making fun of it. It turns out it's a decent film.
I heard it's
okay.
finally, the WWE makes a
Good.
decent movie.
Right. How are we to
Shockingly
know?
enough.
They've been 20 years trying to make a decent movie. They finally made one. Okay.
Well, they did. Wait
No
a minute.
Holds
Hold on.
Barred?
No Holds Barred is a great movie.
Okay.
I have it on DVD.
Okay.
What?
Awesome.
Okay.
You're okay with no
I
Holds
watched
Barred?
it on-
It's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
I watched it
I
on
smell
Hulu. Like,
dookie.
Yeah, it's the
Dookie.
greatest thing I've ever seen. It's fantastic. Oh,
Rip
my
'em.
God.
Rip 'em. Yeah, it's like, you know what? You're right. Why
mind
just
if
call him Hulk
Can I
Hogan?
just snort
Why
a cigarette
did you-
on the table here right now? You guys are...
Why did you
I need
call
to
him
get-
Hulk Hogan? It was like an Elvis movie. Like, just call a fucking guy Elvis.
Yeah.
Like, why are you calling him Rip?
Just call him Hulk
Hulk
Hogan.
Hogan.
Much as I love him, he's the worst actor ever.
I know, he was great.
He's horrible.
I smell dookie.
anymore.
Worst piece of shit.
That is the worst.
Well, how about he's got the curtain with the hot chick in the bed, and
Joe
it's in
Severance,
between,
yes.
and then he's doing push-ups. It's
Yeah.
like, dude,
Right.
shut up.
It's just...
And you know
Okay.
what? I'm sorry. Hulk Hogan is probably the most unsexy guy. Like, he does a porn, no interest watching.
No.
It's like, ew.
I don't know. Andrew Rosner seems kind of up for that.
Rosner's made the porn list.
Oh, come on.
Ron Jeremy, Andrew Rosner, Hulk Hogan.
If anyone doesn't know who Andrew Rosner is, he used to be a former host of one of our shows here.
Okay.
The Walking Infomercial.
Hello, this is Andrew Rosner. Call my number.
Oh, my God.
Hello, Jimmy Pharaoh.
No.
Welcome to the Andrew Rosner Show. Can you tell me about your career?
About your business.
Kirk the Enterprise, get me the fuck out of here. Holy shit.
I smell dookie. All right, anyway.
Wow.
So, one thing I found out last, we went and had some late diner dinner.
Yeah.
You're working on your second album with
Yeah.
Wisteria Hall. You
Yes,
wanna,
I am.
I'm very excited. Very excited.
First one was awesome.
Thank you.
First one is awesome.
That's what I mean.
You know what?
Yeah, thanks.
I call things iPod worthy. I literally have, what do you got, 10 tracks on that?
Yeah.
I have 7 of the 10 tracks
Oh,
on my
wow.
iPod.
You're
Good.
like 2
That
ahead
passes
of me.
the
I have
test.
5.
That's still great.
Five's
Hey,
a lot.
if you had one, I'd be happy, but that's great. Second record's going well. We don't have anything new to report after last week. We're still working on the first 3. We're doing them in sets of 3 right now because our producer's up in Canada. And it's amazing with the equipment, computers, and everything. You can basically work with someone in Canada without having to drive up there. You know, so it's
Nice.
it's amazing.
not bad.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. And
Well, the technology, right?
he's an incredible producer. He's also an incredible guitar player, and he plays multiple instruments. He's just a brilliant guy. Clifton David Broadbridge. He's fantastic. And he's been giving us some really honest mixes. They have a lot more edge to them, so I'm pretty happy about it.
Awesome.
You know, so far so good with that.
Are you ready to make a call to our astounding guest?
Sure, why not?
Who are we calling?
You are calling.
Dr. Love? Rant.
No, sorry. I'm trying to get some post out. JJ Maguire. We'll give a rundown of what he's all about. For the normal wrestling fan, just a regular walkthrough wrestling fan, you may not know who JJ is, but once you should once you hear from him, you're going to realize how important he was to the industry and actually how important he was to music.
Are we ready to call, boys?
We are ready to call Mr. Miller.
Wait, hold on one second. I just
Hey,
gotta
you
get
get-
rid of something. Hold on.
Even.
Okay, and we are ready to call.
Beautiful.
Let it ring and ring and ring.
Let it ring.
But Ralph, they're playing your song.
Before the show, we had a little rendition of Beth, the three of us. We did a good job.
Yes, sirree.
All right. Mr. Maguire, how are you? You are on Monte and the Pharaoh. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Oh, wow. This is a real honor to be on the show, and thank you for letting me share my story with all the great fans all around the world and all that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time with us. It was truly our honor also. So before we get into your career and your career highlights and all these wonderful questions we have ready for you, for people that may not know, you are an accomplished musician. Am I correct?
I guess so. I started classical studies when I was 5 years old and never stopped since, and it gave me the foundation to do all these great icon themes for WWF, WWE, and WCW, and also being in a multi-million seller group, the Gentrys, with the great mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, my best friend.
That is awesome. Well, you know, we just recently have met and had conversations. I wanted to make you aware that our own Jimmy Pharaoh, the star of Monte and the Pharaoh, is also an accomplished musician. Very popular bands he was in, War Dance and Electric Sunset between the late 80s and early 90s. So I thought, what a great little combination you two would make.
Well, we got two musicians on the line, but I didn't do what he did. Let's not get cuckoo.
Okay.
It's great. Yeah.
So, are you ready? Are you ready to dance the night away with Monte and the Pharaoh?
I'm ready and willing.
I got to ask you, you mentioned that you had started with classical music. Who got you into that? Was that your parents, or?
That's correct. I started out, I could actually play the piano, and actually you could discern what I was playing, like Silent Night and things like that, when I was about 3 years old.
Nice.
And they put me up on the bench, you know, and my mother sat there and said, now he's got something. Maybe we should do something about that. So they ran around when I was 4 years old trying to find teachers that would start to teach me, but they didn't want to teach anyone until you're 5 years old, so I had to wait another year. But by that time, I'd already found some books myself and was already playing quite a bit of the early kiddie stuff that you start out on. And I found a great classical teacher and went from there and stayed with it all the way up till I was in the, actually almost a freshman in high school, but I had to quit because I played through all the Thompson and Schwamm books and everything. Wasn't anything left except go to Carnegie Hall. But, you know, a group came on the TV one night on Ed Sullivan called the Beatles.
Oh, there you go.
And I said, wait a minute. I said, this is the route I want to go.
Right, right. At what point into your classical, how old are you when you start to pick up other instruments like the guitar, etc.?
Pretty early. My brother brought home from college. He went to the University of Kentucky, and he came home one summer and went to the pawn shop and bought an old beat-up guitar down there, a K or something that had been stepped on and thrown around. But it was halfway playable. He couldn't do anything with it. He had a Mel Bay book, you know, the first book you get to learn chords. So he said, Jim, I can't do anything with this. And he said, I'm going to leave it with you. I've got a date tonight. You see if you can figure something out. Well, he came home. By the time he got out of the movies and came home, I was playing On Top of Old Smokey and
wow,
you know, a bunch of songs like that. He said, forget it. Just keep the damn guitar, he said.
How old were you when you had your first public performance? I'm sure you took your classical piano skills out in front of people at some point.
Well, my parents were members of the Somerset Country Club, which was my, I owe lots of, maybe 50% of everything to that, because that gave me an audience to perform for. They had an old upright honky-tonk piano in the ballroom up there. They had a 9-hole golf course, which later now it's 18. But in those years, they had an Olympic-sized pool, and so, you know, I'd swim all day in the morning, and then of the evening, they'd have potluck dinners. And so they'd say, Jim, why don't you entertain the crowd while everybody's doing the potluck stuff? I'm like, sure. So I would play songs like Poor People of Paris and some Broadway stuff and, you know, all that kind of flamboyant deals. And everybody really liked it, but it gave me an opportunity to learn how to play in front of people and audiences. And then I played in my first classical music performance, I guess, when I'd broken my collar. Skateboards had just come out. This was in the mid-'60s, right around that time. And so I broke my collarbone on one trying to, shoot a big mountain of a hill and hit a bust in the sidewalk there and broke my collarbone. Well, a week later I had to play in my recital. I played Pharaoh, Beethoven.
Sure.
Okay, so anyway, the teacher said, "Jim, do you think that you can play the program?" I went, "Yes, I will." So I was all bound up with ace bandage like they do, to set the bone and the whole thing, the collarbone. So I came out there, and I had on my dad's jacket, and the people thought it was a comedy routine. I looked like Herman Munster. So here I come out there all bound up with that ace bandage big in my dad's oversized coat, and the people all laughed and thought, "Oh, this is some kind of comedy routine." No, it wasn't a comedy routine. I sat down and played for Elise, and that blew the roof off the whole place, and everybody standing ovation, and they clapped for me for about 5 minutes straight.
Gorgeous.
And I knew right then and there that this is what I want to do my whole life, but I want to go into pop music, and so then that's where I went.
Okay, this ultimately leads you to the Mouth of the South.
I just have one quick question for Jim. I'm sorry, Jim. I'm a little surprised though. There were skateboards in Kentucky.
What?
Yes, there were. Yes, there were.
Wow. You see, on the Monte and the Pharaoh show, you learn things every week.
That's true. This is true.
I would never know. I would never have thought people in Kentucky were skateboarding.
Well, we're different up here, that's for sure. Kentucky, we have a rough image, about people think we marry our cousins, and I guess some of them do up in Appalachia.
Oh my God!
But we have there's more celebrities, sports stars per capita from Kentucky than any state in the union.
Really?
Look at that.
So it's definitely not true. You don't marry your cousins down there.
Yeah. What is that? What are you?
Well, I'm not going to, but I'm sure some of them probably have until they figured it out.
All right. Well, look, I'm learning stuff every day. I'm going to turn. Okay. All right, Jimmy, what do you got, buddy?
Come on down. You'll enjoy it. I'll have a skateboard waiting for both of you.
I'll bring my skateboard.
And a cousin, too.
Your cousin? My cousin, too.
I don't know. If you ever saw my cousin, you wouldn't want it down there.
No. Return to sender. I wanted to ask you, of course, at some point you do come across the great Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. How does this come about? And how far into the Gentries do you wind up joining with Jimmy?
Okay, I was playing with a group from Lexington, Kentucky called Powder Keg. Two of the guys that were in that group with me are now in the group Exile, the country pop group. Sonny Lemaire, the bass player, and Marlon Hargis. They joined in the latter 70s and played on I Want to Kiss You All Over and all that. But I had an opportunity to play with them, but I had just joined the Gentries a week before their keyboard player quit, and they called me and asked me. But back to answer the first part of the question. So this agent that booked us in that Powder Keg band booked us in Florida. We went down and played about 2 weeks straight down there at a few different real nice big club venues. And so when we returned to Kentucky, Sonny Lemaire, a friend of his, was in Vegas and wanted him to come out and do a duo thing for gigantic money, just two guys, not a whole band. So he quit the band and left, but the agent that was booking Powder Keg was also had booked the Gentry on some concert dates and stuff. And he called me. His name was Joe Powers. And Joe called and said, JJ, he said, there's a guy named Jimmy Hart. Well, I didn't know Jimmy Hart and Jimmy Fart. I mean, no clue. So he said he has the band The Gentrys, and he owns the name and everything. I said, oh, yeah, they had the multi-million seller in '66 with Keep On Dancing. Sure, I know all about that. And I said, but you know something? I just saw him a year ago at Toys for Tots that I played in Louisville, Kentucky at Freedom Hall for the largest crowd that's ever been there in the history of the building. And we had a regional record out. In those years, you had regional hit groups that had 45s playing on the radio and everything when you had vinyl. And so he said, well, he's auditioning drummers. Here's his number. I told him, I'm going to call him and tell him you're fixing to call. I said, okay, Joe, sure. So, all right, he gave me Jimmy's number. I waited a few minutes. I called. Jimmy answered the phone. Jimmy Hart speaking. And I went, Mr. Hart, this is J.J. Maguire. I said, Joe Powers gave me your number. He said, yeah, I just talked to Joe. And I said, well, I'd like to audition for the group. I think I could do the job. And he said, well, here's who you're up against. We're having the audition at the American Studios. That's where Elvis got a lot of his hits in the day. And he said, we got the studio for a whole day for the auditions, but we have Jerry Lee Lewis's one of his drummers is auditioning, and then we've got also a drummer that plays regularly with Ray Charles. And I said, wow, that's impressive. But here's the thing, Jimmy. I saw you guys in the Gentrys, and you're heavy. You did Cinnamon Girl, by Neil Young, and it was heavier than Neil, and that's saying a lot in your voice. Jimmy Hart is absolutely fabulous. And I was there. We played on the same bill at the Toys for Tots thing at Freedom Hall in 1970 there last year. And he said, well, I just want to tell you who you're up against. I said, those guys are backbeat drummers. They're not solid hard rock drummers like I am. I said, I have a double bass drum set. Jimmy says, what's a double bass?
Nice.
I said, that's two bass drums.
Right.
And at that time, there was hardly anybody who was using double bass.
Very true.
And yes. And so I said, I tell you what, Mr. Hart. He said, call me Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, I tell you what, I'll pay my own expense down to Memphis to audition. If you take me, then you'll pay half of my expenses. If you don't want me, there's no hard feelings at all. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and talk to you later. He said, okay, well, I'll see you then next Tuesday. So I went down, got a hotel room. Jimmy came over, a knock was on the door. I opened the door, and I look at this guy, and it's Jimmy Hart, and he looks like one of the Bay City Rollers. He had on those jacked up pants like they wore, and all that, and plaid pants, and had his hair fixed like that, and the whole thing. So I thought, well, this is pretty cool. So he had a mustache. He came in. He sat on one of the double beds, and I sat on the other one. We faced each other and looked at each other, and he asked me a little bit about myself. And he said, well, tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we're going to have the auditions. I thought I'd come over and meet you first. Of course, he was coming over there to see if I was some kind of jabroni or something that he didn't even want to fool with.
Sizing you up. That. Yeah, sizing you
up.
So,
so I said, sure. So we hit it off real good. Somehow there was a connection right then that is still lasting to this day. So anyway, I went over and I auditioned. The other two guys played first because they were the big league hitters. And I was a pretty big league hitter in a regional area, but not, I could say I played with Ray Charles and Jerry Lee Lewis.
Right.
So anyway, they did their little thing, and then I was out in the hall, and so I was third. And so then Jimmy came out and said, okay, Maguire, come on in. Okay, so I went in, and we did the audition song was Going Down by Don Mix. Going down, 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 down. Y'all familiar with it? So, oh man. That was a double bass Paradise. So
that's actually right up your alley because you're a heavy player. That song could be done pretty
heavy hitter.
Yeah, didn't Jeff Beck do an incredible version?
Me and Cameron Appice. Cameron Appice couldn't overshadow me.
Right.
So anyway, they stopped. We got halfway through the song, and they stopped. Wes Stafford, guitar player, who was the musical director at that time, he stopped. And I thought, well, hell, I've scared these guys. They kept looking at the double bass drum like, what the hell, And so I thought, I scared them. I ruined this whole thing. I should have not done that. Maybe I should just stayed on single bass and played simpler, or something. So I figured that was it. And so then they whispered between themselves some. And then so Jimmy walked out in the hall through the door, out of the studio room into the hall out there. And then Wes was just talking to me about the double bass. He said, that's really interesting. I've never heard anything like that. And I thought, well, I've scared the shit out of them, so I've ruined it. And so then Jimmy comes back in, and then he and Wes kind of whisper to one another, and then they both come up to me and stick their hands out and say, Maguire, welcome to the Gentrys.
There you go.
Wow. Nice.
There you go.
Yeah.
At that time, you were way ahead with the double bass because, if I'm not mistaken, guys like John Bonham and Bill Ward were creating double bass sounds without the double bass. And then eventually double basses started to come in, especially when heavy metal bands came into the forefront.
That's right.
But it's very interesting that you decided to take that route.
I never went to any club or anywhere where I ever saw another drummer using double bass.
Yeah, especially that time period. That's unheard of, actually.
Miller, I'm listening to these two guys, and I'm like, they're like speaking Chinese to me. I have no idea what they're talking about.
That's the musician talk.
Two bass drums, brother.
Hello.
Two bass drums.
Yep.
Hello.
Well, Cinnamon Girl obviously worked out for you guys in the Gentrys. Wasn't that a top 40 hit there, JJ?
Yes, it was, and we had a string of hits. We were with Capitol Records, RCA. We had a string of hits. Why Should I Cry? And we had a song called "Goddess of Love" which sounded like Evil Ways backwards. I always told Jimmy, I said, Jimmy, you know, this thing sounds like Evil Ways played backwards. He said, well, it's okay, it's a hit. Do we care? And I went, no, but nobody sued us, because but to me it sounded like, you know, just to invert the chord structure backwards. But anyway, we toured. I was going to say that after that audition that evening at American Studios, the next day we went to Florida, and I had to play through 45 songs. Of course, I knew a lot of the material, and I knew the Gentry's original material as well. So I was lucky that I was prepared. And of course, on drums, if you're even a little above half-assed, you can kind of fake it and get through on all that stuff as long as you have the tempo right.
Right.
But yeah, we played the Big Daddy circuit. And the Big Daddy circuit, we played the Pier in Daytona. We played all the hot spots, all in every major Floridian town, and Miami and 747 and all those places. And then the second gig I did with them, we actually did a concert gig in Florida, at the University of Florida or whatever down there, and we were the headline group, and guess who opened for us? This is going to blow you off the chair.
Wisteria Hall?
A little group called Steppenwolf.
Oh, wow.
And another little group that had just started to play out called Chicago.
Oh,
wow.
Wow.
We were the headliner.
Hey,
we were the headline.
With the original guitar player from Chicago who gets like no credit whatsoever.
Yes, sir.
But
Terry
ripped.
Katz, greatest of all time.
Oh my God, that guy ripped. Oh my God. I wanted to ask you, at what point does Jimmy Hart get you guys into the wrestling scene? How do you go from the Gentrys to the wrestling scene?
Well, Jimmy came down with hepatitis. He always was real. First, I'd like to say this to the listening audience: Jimmy Hart has never had a drink in his whole life.
Really?
Jimmy Hart has never smoked dope in his whole life.
Wow.
Jimmy Hart has never touched, and people always thought because he was so crazy as a character that he's got to be on pills or something. Jimmy Hart's never been on anything. He's never even tasted any of what I just said. Nothing.
Wow. So he basically he only just said his prayers and drank his milk, like listening to Hogan, I guess.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Pretty much so.
Well, it works.
But so anyway, what happened was he came down with hepatitis. He actually took a drink. Somebody switched glasses, or there was confusion at the bar or something, where he would always get like a Coca-Cola with cherry in it, you know, with grenadine. Okay. And that was his stiff drink. So somehow the glasses got switched up or something, and he drank after somebody that had hepatitis, and he came down with it while we were on the road. He had to go back to Memphis and recuperate for about a few months. So the Gentrys took some time off. And in the meantime, let me backtrack a little bit. While we were playing with the Gentrys, prior to that, one Sunday, the only days that we had off was a Sunday. Really, we were busy either traveling or performing, and between concerts and Big Daddy's circuit. And so Jimmy said, "Maguire, you like wrestling?" I said, "Do I like wrestling? I've been watching wrestling since I was about 3 years old." I said, "I love wrestling, Channel 10 and, you know, all the old guys and the classic stuff." And I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "My Uncle Bob Eisenbarger in Chicago, when I go up and stay with them in the summers, they live at 1400 Lakeshore Drive, and right above the Lake Michigan, looking right out at it, a beautiful place to live, you know." And anyway, Uncle Bob on Saturday afternoon, Saturday at noon, he'd say, "It's time for WOR wrestling. Let's watch it, Jimbo." So we'd get in there, and the first wrestler that I ever saw that made an impression on me as a kid, preteen, teen, was Gorgeous George.
Oh, there you go.
I couldn't figure it out, and probably neither could anybody else, but, you know, Gorgeous George sure did the job.
Well, you know, to Pharaoh and myself, when we talk about top wrestlers, your top 10 list cannot have, like, it has to have Gorgeous George in it. If it doesn't, it's not a proper list.
Yes, sir. Well, back to your question, I'd like to say one segue back into how I got into wrestling. My grandfather saved the life of Ed Strangler Lewis. It was in the latter 20s at the Opera House. This is all in my book and more. We won't have time tonight to go into all these things that I have to talk about, but I'll try to hit some highlights. But Strangler Ed was defending his title at the Opera House in Lexington, Kentucky. He came out through the curtain, whatever, and he was chewing gum. He would chew gum going to the ring. And a fan slapped him on the back, and he got choked. And now this was not a work or anything. This was the real deal now. And of course, Granddad, my father, was a prominent surgeon in Lexington, Kentucky, and he loved wrestling. So he took my future dad to be to the matches. And I guess Dad was only about 18 at that time, or somewhere right in that age bracket. My dad was born in 1911. I wasn't born until my parents were in my mid 40s. So anyway, Strangler was choking, and they got on the megaphone and said, "If there's a doctor in the house, please come forward." I know this all sounds like some kind of gimmick, but it was not a gimmick. And Strangler was turning blue. He couldn't get his breath. Granddad stepped underneath the rope. They didn't use a barricade then. They had, like a VIP rope type thing. And so Granddad and Dad stepped under that, and Granddad got up there, and I don't know if he Heimlich'd or what the actual move was, but he got the gum out. He got him to puke up the gum and what have you. And Strangler Ed told Dad to come back to the dressing room as they hauled him out. They took him out on a stretcher back to the back. And so when Granddad and my future dad got into the back, Strangler, he was the original Hulk Hogan. He was, and to this day, he's the richest sports wrestling star that's ever lived. Even more money than Hogan in comparison to the amount of money that was made in comparison to what a dollar's worth today.
He was packing stadiums way back. Yep. Yes,
sir.
Yep.
He was it. He was your first real Hulk Hogan person, really. And so, superstar. So, anyway, he told Granddad, he said, "Dr. Maguire," he said, "you saved my life. Now, you pick it. If you want a new horse and buggy, you got it. If you want one of those newfangled cars, you've got it. You just name it. You pick what you want." Granddad looked down at my dad. He looked back at Strangler, and he said, "Strangler, I can't accept gratuities like that because I took the Hippocratic Oath." But he said, "I'll tell you what I would be interested in. How about lifetime ringside seats at the Opera House?"
Oh,
wow. Strangler said, "Done."
Wow.
And that's for real. And then
before you
knew
it,
I told Vince that story.
Well, that's what I was about to say to you. Before you knew it, Vince
shed a tear.
Brought the Opera House.
Vince shed a tear, and I never could understand that. Not until recently in my life did I realize, because Ed Strangler Lewis is why you have everything today. Ed Strangler Lewis and his promoter invented the undercard. Ed Strangler Lewis and his promoter invented the storyline in wrestling.
Wow. So how do you and Jimmy get into Memphis with Jerry Lawler?
Well, Jimmy and I, one day, when we were in the Gentrys, back to that part of the story, Jimmy said, "Maguire, do you like wrestling?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And so we went, they were down in Florida, in Orange County or somewhere down there. And we went on a Sunday, and the first superstar wrestler that I ever met was a wrestler named Sputnik Monroe.
Okay.
And Jimmy knew Sputnik. And we went and watched him work, and then we gave Sputnik a ride back to the hotel and everything. And people just jumped all over him, and especially the people of color loved him just like he was of color. And so it started there, and Jimmy never took his eyes off. While we were sitting up there watching those matches, Jimmy never moved his head. His eyes stayed completely on the ring and the whole. When I'd be talking to him, I'd go, "Jimmy, blah blah blah." He wouldn't even. He would speak a little bit outside his mouth, but he wouldn't even turn his head to look at me. I knew that he was really obsessed with wrestling, big right there. So then, fast forward, when Lawler was working in Memphis, Jimmy used to go to the matches and just sit in the audience. And Lawler saw him and recognized him from being in the Gentrys. So Lawler asked Jimmy if he would be interested in selling his merchandise, out front. So Jimmy said, "Sure, King, I'd love to do that." So Jimmy did that for quite a while. And I went to Rupp Arena and saw a big Mid-South show back in the day, and Lawler and them. And Jimmy was just out in the lobby, selling posters and T-shirts and so forth. So then Jimmy called me about a month later and said, "Maguire, Lawler wants me to be his ring manager." And I said, "Really, Jimmy? That sounds pretty cool." I said, "Do you know how to do it?" He said, "No, I don't know anything about anything." He said, "Lawler said he'd teach me." And I said, "Well, yeah, you know some about it because you're a wrestling fan. I mean, yeah, go for it." So then he started running around the ring and being Lawler's manager. But Jimmy didn't know anything about wrestling, nothing. I mean, the typical marks knew more about wrestling, the science of what it really is, than Jimmy did, because Jimmy's a musician, like myself, a performer. But anyway, so Lawler showed him, and there you go. And so then I got a call one day a conference call from Lawler and Jimmy, and it was Jimmy saying, I got Lawler on the line, Maguire, and he said, Jerry wants to cut a record to sell at the matches. And I went, sounds cool. Yeah, is he going to sing it? Jimmy said, yeah. He said, I'll do a guide track for the voice, and then Lawler, you know, he'll just copy the best he can when I do. Lawler did pretty good on it, but what it is so Lawler said, Maguire, how much do you want to do it? And I says, well, King, I said, I'm so honored to do it. I'm probably going to do it almost next to nothing just because it's you. And he said, no, I don't expect people to do things for nothing. He said, how about $1,000 and a first-class plane ticket? I said, King, when do you need me? And he said, how about next Monday? And I said, I'm there. So he gave me a first-class plane ticket. And when so the song that I did, the disco era was kicking real solid right then in the latter 70s. So I rearranged and made a disco version out of Breaking Up Is Hard to Do by Neil Sedaka. And that's what I did for Lawler. And that was the first record sold. I mean, you didn't even have a WWF yet. You know, it was just nothing more than a weekend promotion at an armory or a school up there, you know, in New Jersey and parts in lower New York and whatever.
So JJ, is it fair to say that you know Jerry Lawler fairly well?
I know Jerry Lawler fairly well. Yes, I do. And, Lawler.
Go ahead. I'm going to hit you with a little bit of a tough question. All right. We had New Jack in studio a couple of months ago. New Jack from ECW. He had a lot of I don't know how you'd say it, Pharaoh. He didn't have very good things to say about Jerry Lawler, and he pretty much just called him out for being a racist. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think so, because Jerry Lawler is imperative in bringing Coco Beware in. And Coco Beware, you know, he did an interview with a friend of mine on the Robin Nelson's podcast show, which is one of the greatest interviews of a wrestler you'll ever hear anywhere. Because Coco told his whole story from beginning to end. And Coco said when he went down to his first match, whatever, he said that they told him, he said, you just sit in that corner and you keep your mouth shut and you do exactly what they tell you and we'll see. But Coco was such a fabulous worker that they immediately were just taken over by his talent and everything, and the rest is history. But Lawler was very imperative in letting Coco, you know, have big pushes and whatever. So my experience with Lawler was, of course, I didn't wrestle Jerry Lawler, and I didn't spend tons of hours in a locker room with Jerry Lawler, but all of my experiences with Jerry was just the opposite, I think. I think it depends on who's talking and whose feet have been stepped on and so forth. Same thing about Hulk. You know, I've spent all kinds of hours on end with Hulk, personal time, one-to-one, and, you know, I know Hulk Hogan better than any fan living. And the only person that knows Hulk Hogan any better than me would be Jimmy Hart. But next to Jimmy Hart, I know Hulk Hogan the second best of anybody that's alive.
So what's your take? What's your take on that Hulk Hogan situation?
He's not a racist. He's saying he's not.
He's not. Hulk never. I never ever heard the Hulk, and traveling the world with Hulk. I never, with the Wrestling Boot Band and doing all the music all the years, 114 themes that Jimmy and I did for WWFE and WCW. Hulk was always. I never saw him chasing women. God is my witness. I never saw him drunk and falling down. I never heard him say a racist remark. I mean, that doesn't. Obviously, he made a racist remark in a fit of passion, and it was recorded, and that almost sunk his career. But, you know, my experiences really with Lawler, and they both did one thing the same. When I got through doing that session in Memphis for Lawler on the Breaking Up Is Hard to Do ring record, when he gave me $1,000, he said, Maguire, are you sure that's enough? And I said, King, I told you that's what I'd do it for. That's what you offered, and that's good for me. And then Hulk did the same thing. When Hulk paid me for my physical time playing all the instruments on the Wrestling Boot Band album and everything, the figure that I quoted him and he paid me, which was a very big sum. He said, Maguire, he said, same thing Lawler did. He said, Maguire, are you sure that's enough? And I said, Hulkster, I know that we're going to make all kinds of money on the back end once this thing sells and does whatever, so this right here would be just great, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I love you, brother. But he and Lawler both asked me if that was enough money, so that shows something about their personality. You know, I could have said, no, I want $59,000, or something. But no, I said, I told you what I'd do it for, and there you are. But my experiences of both of those guys is kind of similar in a way. But again, I wasn't wrestling them. I wasn't, that part of the business. It might have been. They might have been. Now Hulk, he always stayed to himself. Pretty much, he had his own dressing room, and because he was the big star, and I'm sure some of the boys were jealous of that. But if the rest of the boys could draw in the walk-up tickets that Hulk Hogan can draw, then they could have had their own dressing room as well.
Agreed.
But now I'm going to tell you, there's never been a wrestler living that's ever had walk-up sales of tickets like Hulk Hogan. Yep. Period.
You're preaching to the Hulk Hogan choir here. We love Hulk Hogan. He's our personal favorite. We both grew up with him, JJ. So,
well, that's all
there.
of us. That's all I can tell you. He was gracious to me and kind, and my experiences with Hulk Hogan is nothing but a perfect 10. But I'm sure that other people may not have had as many of glorious experiences, but mine have been fantastic, and I'm just blessed and privileged to have been a part of all this. But my grandfather saving Strangler Ed Lewis's life is what led to all this karmic wheel. I'm telling you.
It's very bizarre. It's almost a little
Twilight
supernatural
Zone.
there. Something.
Twilight Zone.
A little spiritual wackiness going on there, but it's cool. I wanted to mention to the folks at home who may not realize this, you actually were able to spend a lot of the time backstage and get to know a lot of these wrestlers, from what I understand, looking up your career. This puts you in a minority. Usually the wrestlers only hang with the wrestlers and talk with the wrestlers in the locker room, but you're a rare exception. You want to tell us about, you got to know Vince McMahon a little bit too, right, from being backstage?
Yes, sir. I know them all, just like brothers. Brothers, they are brothers to me, everybody, including Andre. Andre loved me because I'm also a magician, and he was very particular about who he would let in the back with him. And I would show him card tricks and coin tricks and stuff, and he said, "Give me Maguire, I want to see a new trick." And so, yes, sir. What am I going to do? Say no.
What did he ask? Ask for you to make the Iron Sheik disappear or something like that? Make him go away.
He would love it if I could have made Randy Savage disappear.
Oh crap!
Hey, can you share with the audience an Andre Randy Savage story you may know?
Yes, Andre. My Andre story. It'll be in the book as well. But I'll go ahead and expose this one. People, I think they'll still buy the book because there's going to be so much more. Andre in Cleveland, I went to Cleveland to pin some more material and so forth with Jimmy. And so Andre, Jimmy came up to me and said, "Maguire," in the back, he said, "Maguire, Andre wants to talk to you about something." I went, "Oh, well, I haven't done anything to make him mad, so I guess I'm in the clear." He said, "I don't know what he wants." So Andre came over to me and he says, "You know, Maguire," he says, "My girlfriend is coming tonight. I don't want the boys around her. I want you to sit with her in the wings. Don't let the boys come around her." And I went, "Sure, Andre, I'll be glad to do that." So he was dating this woman that was the weather anchor on the Cleveland TV station. Real nice looking woman.
Was she smoking?
And
she was smoking hot, right, JJ?
She was smoking hot. She was
Andre.
Ethnic,
Look at my girlfriend.
Some kind of southern country's blend of some sort there. Really hot. And
wow.
So anyway, the women all loved Andre. I mean, women fell all over him for real. And so I sat with her, and nobody came around. And when the match was over, Andre came back through the wing there where we were sitting and watching. And he said, "Jimmy Maguire, thank you for sitting with my girlfriend. I really appreciate it." And he patted me on the back and about knocked me down, of course. He was trying to be gentle. And I never forget always talking to Andre, and when he shook my hand across different times, my hand just looked like a fresh-born baby's hand, and his hand is so large. Wow. But, Andre was a great person, and he really did a lot for wrestling, more than maybe a lot of people realize, and some of us we realize. But Andre paved the way, and Andre opened the door for Hulk Hogan as well, as you know.
And, Jimmy, what was Andre's issue with Randy Savage?
Yeah, what's his problem?
He just didn't. Andre was a tough person. If he liked you, he loved you. If he didn't like you, he despised you.
Jeez.
and you couldn't really find a reason. And he hated that baby oil that Savage always put on. Randy did. Now Randy was a big close friend of mine too. Randy and I rode to a lot of matches together and spent a lot of time in the car running up and down the road and stuff. And Randy was extremely kind to me. He was like Andre too. If he liked you, he loved you. But if he didn't like you, you had there's no place for you.
Yeah.
Was Randy wired for sound like he was in the gimmick? Was he like Randy Macho Man Savage full time?
All the time. Oy.
No, not in private moments like riding with me in the car and stuff like that. Randy's unusual and he's very different. But Randy's very intelligent, and Randy's very bright and brilliant in a certain way. And we had great civilized conversations. See, he loved Somerset, Kentucky, where I'm from, because when his dad ran the smaller territories and stuff, and Angelo did, Randy actually started out wrestling down here with Rip Rogers and a bunch of those, and Pistol Pez and those guys, down here in this territory. And Randy loved Somerset, and he knew people here. And he always, I guess that's one of the reasons he liked me a lot, too, is because I was a connection for him to the Somerset crowd.
Okay. How did you get along with Lanny Poffo?
Lanny was extremely polite to me and nice, but Lanny is different. Lanny's intelligent also, but Lanny is a quieter individual, and he's not way over the top like Randy is. But a fabulous, one of the greatest talents of all time also. But they're two different people. Even though they're the same blood and the same family, they're miles apart in their personalities. It's just as you could kind of see, around the ring and everything too.
So, JJ, as we're mentioning all these WWE names, you want to tell us how you guys wound up in the WWE working for Vince with the songs?
Yes. Well, Jimmy had been working, the Mid-South territories with Lawler for quite a while, quite a few years there. And then one day he got a call, and then I was there at Jimmy's house. We were working on, we had an independent thing called Hot Rocket that was Jimmy Hart and myself, and Rick Dees was promoting our record down in Memphis, breaking it for us. And it was really, I played all the instruments, and Jimmy and I did the singing. Jimmy did the lead singing, whatever. But we were working on a separate project, what I just described. And so he got a call one day, and I was there, and he picked up the phone. He said hello, and he was quiet, and I was standing right next to him, and he's going, "Okay, guys, what a rib!" And he hung up the phone. I said, "Who was it, Jimmy?" He said, "It's one of the boys trying to pretend they're Vince McMahon." He said, "I know better. It's a rib." And then the phone rang again, and immediately, and then he picked it up, and it was Hillbilly Jim on the line. And Hillbilly told him, says, "Jimmy, I'm up here with Vince." He said, "I told Vince to look at your tapes and stuff from Mid-South, and he wants to talk to you. It's real. It really is Vince." And Jimmy said, "Well, okay." And so Vince said, "Jimmy Hart?" And Jimmy said, "Yes, sir, Mr. McMahon." He said, "It's really me calling." And he said, he told him, he said, "I saw your tapes. I want you to come to New York next Tuesday. Just pick up the plane ticket." And Jimmy said, "Well, yeah, I'd love to talk to you, I guess, about that." And of course, he's a little nervous about, leaving Lawler and everything, because they built such kind of an empire together, down there. And so anyway, he was kind of perplexed, and he hung the phone up, and he told me, he said, "Well, that was Hillbilly. Hillbilly was up there and turned Vince onto my tapes and stuff from Channel 5, Saturday Wrestling, and Mid-South tapes and whatever." And he said he wants me to come to New York. I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, I've heard a lot of stuff about WWF up there. That sounds like a real deal there." And he went, "Well, yeah." He said, I don't know what to expect." I said, "Are you going?" He said, "I guess I will. What do I have to lose?" And I said, "Nothing." And so the rest is history.
It sure is.
JJ, you seem like a very kind gentleman. Was there anybody that you couldn't stand working with in the industry?
Not really. The people that were abrasive or whatever, for instance, like Animal. Animal was kind of abrasive. When I tried to talk to him and stuff, when I was at Hawk's 40th birthday party, Linda had rented a private diner, a beachside down there in Florida, and everybody, of course, Vince flew in, and anybody in the wrestling industry showed up, of course. And I've got it all on video. One of these days I'm going to release it on our Kentucky Zone Wrestling channel. You'll be able to see all that. But anyway, Animal came out, and so I had my camera on him, and I said, "Animal, you want to say a few words for the fans?" He said, "Yeah, I'm going to say a few words, brother." He said, "I'm going to reach right through that lens of that camera and choke you to death and throw your body out for the sharks out here." And really, I thought, well, this is just, he's just in character here, but really, he kind of meant it too. But I just always avoided him because I couldn't really tell where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And I think in really in a lot of ways, Roddy Piper Roddy was polite to me, but hardly anybody really talked to him much. And he didn't ever buddy up with the boys or anything.
He's a loner.
That's all true.
Roddy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But he was nice to me. He was nice to me, okay. But I didn't spend much time trying to get through to Roddy because, I was more well received by most everybody else,
Well, it was announced this week that the Honky Tonk Man, the greatest intercontinental champion of all time, will be entering the WWE Hall of Fame. You wrote Honky's music. How excited are you right now?
I got a long sideburn and my hair slicked back. Jimmy wrote most of the lyrics. I helped him with the lyrics, but I wrote all the music and played the instruments and whatever. But it's funny you'd mention that. I was busy in the process of moving into a new place, and so I hit my hopper thing to record SmackDown the other night, and I didn't watch it until 12 midnight. And I just about erased it. I watched that stuff at the first where the belt was laid down, and then Kofi came out and all that stuff, and I thought, well, okay, I think I'll just erase this and make stuff. Well, maybe I better not because they might make some more announcements on the whole thing. Glad I didn't.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I got up to the point of where they had the Honky Tonk Man thing, and I was so livid, I immediately texted Honky and said, "Honky," I said, "I just saw your Hall of Fame clip." I said, "Unbelievable, wasn't it?" He texted me back. He said, "Maguire, I didn't see it." He said, I'm in the process, I'm traveling, and I didn't have a chance to see it. He said, "How was the crowd response?"
Great.
I said, "Honky."
Great.
I said, "I'm pinching myself."
Great.
I said, "The damn auditorium, everybody was jumping out of their seats.
What, does he think we forgot him?
Feet.
Oh, my
They were
God.
smiling and clapping like seals."
Yeah.
I said, and the clips they put together were
Great.
fantastic, man.
Yeah.
And he said, "Really?" He said, "Really, Maguire?" I mean, like he's like naive, like a kid that doesn't even know what he's doing. And I said, "Honky, listen." And I said, "Whether you realized it or not, the fans and the business and everybody realizes that you will forever be respected and remembered." I said, even they up there at WWE couldn't ignore a man with long sideburns and his hair slicked.
And Peggy Sue. Don't forget Peggy Sue.
All right, so here's a good question for you. How are the residual checks from all this music you've written for the WWE?
They've been fabulous. More than I just figured it'd be something that lasts the summer, and it's still going on.
Last 50 summers.
34 years later.
Wow.
Now, the checks were a lot bigger during the day, of course, because we had at one time through the late 80s and through most of the 90s, Jimmy Hart and I had 98% of all WWF and WWE things.
Well, I want to interrupt you on that because for the, with all due respect, sir, for the wrestling fan, Jimmy Johnson's the guy that gets all the credit for this music. You have anything to say about that?
Well, Jimmy Johnson was with them when they were just a hometown promotion. They didn't have much, and he had a little studio down there, and he helped them out to get started when they were just tiny. And so they felt kind of obligated to Jimmy Johnson. And I think, like I always say, Jimmy Johnson has done good work, but the best thing I think he ever has done is Undertaker theme, in my opinion.
Undertaker.
But Jimmy Johnson, the difference between Jimmy Johnson and Jimmy Hart and myself is Jimmy Johnson never wrote or had a hit record. Jimmy Hart and I have had a string of hit records. And we know what the general public in all ages really kind of want, and that's the whole thing. But really, Jimmy Johnson was kind of their boy in the beginning, so they always felt obligated to him.
But isn't he
on? Give him a lot of credit.
Isn't he on every credit of every song?
No. Jimmy Johnson, we have 114 themes. I'm not sure how many Johnson has.
Right.
And ours are all iconic. I mean, you know, he's did a lot of things for a few icons, I guess, but we've done more than anybody that's ever written any wrestling music.
JJ, do you mind mentioning some of the famous ones for the audience out there? I know you did Common Man, which I absolutely love. That's Dusty's theme. You did Bret the Hitman. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, did Dusty Rhodes, did Demolition, did Road Warriors, did the biggest played and most played theme in wrestling history. That's me playing every instrument. And when on SmackDown the other night for the Ric Flair thing, when Sexy Boy came out, I hear myself playing all those instruments. And
is that you on lead guitar? Is that you on lead guitar on Sexy Boy?
Yes, sir. That's me on every
God, you
instrument.
rip, bro! You rip! Oh my God, it's great. Love it.
Yeah, and I like it because they always let the solo play before they cut it.
Yeah.
JJ,
actually, the rhythm guitar, just a technical tip, the rhythm guitar part that's on there was just a work track that I was always going to go back and make better. It's kind of sounds like like playing electric guitar at the beach or something, you know, a little battery-powered amp. But we never had time to go back for me to beef that up. But the solo was the guitar I used on that. Was a guitar that actually was one of Vivian Campbell's personal guitars that I wound up.
The Holy Ronnie James Dio or something like that? Wow.
Here's a twofold question for you, JJ. What was your favorite theme song you wrote? And when you wrote Hulk Hogan's theme song for WCW, did you feel like you were kind of backstabbing Vince in a way?
No. It was tough because they wanted something that sounded somewhat similar to Real American, but not the same.
Right.
So I came up with what you heard because that's what they wanted. And now a friend of ours is playing some guitar on that too. A lot of that Eddie Van Halen stuff that's on there, that's not me. I wouldn't have added all that. I thought it was a little too much, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I wasn't there. I was ill, and I couldn't finish up the mix and everything. So we brought in a guy named Todd Plant that sang it. His voice is excellent on that. But the deal was, he said, I'll sing it if you'll let me bring my guitar player to play some lead overdubs. Well, he played the lead. If you notice, it never stops.
Right.
So, I mean, he did okay on it and everything, but I wouldn't have had that much on there if I would have had complete control in the end of that. But due to my illness, I was sick and I couldn't get down there, so they had to hurry up and get it out and get it on. But to answer your question, I really always liked the Crush thing. Yeah, and went
interesting.
Kind of sounded a lot like a Metallica song that came out a couple of years later. But I like that. But of course, he didn't become a Hulk Hogan or whatever. But of course, did Brutus Beefcake, did $1 Million Man.
JJ, real quick. I don't know if you heard me though. When you wrote the theme song for American Made, was there some kind of guilt? Because you were a WWE guy, you had such a lineage with the WWE. Now you moved to WCW, and you know this is the start of the wars, kind of, not really at the point. But do you feel the guilt in actually like writing for another organization?
No, not at all, because it's just a job, you know. And I was just thrilled that I was able to, that Hulk wanted me to do that. And Jimmy Hart left and Hulk left the company, and Jimmy went with him, and then they called me and wanted me to do something, and so I went where the money was and where the opportunity was. And no, I didn't feel guilty because Vince had given me great opportunity and all that, but I went. It's just a job. It's like if you work for a certain company, but another company's bigger or almost as big or whatever hires you and pays the right kind of money. But I'd like to say this, that Bruce Pritchard, I'm glad he's back.
Me too. Me too.
All of us.
Bruce was instrumental, no pun intended. He and I forged the deal that Jimmy and I had with WWF and everything. And thanks to Bruce being also in middle management at that time, along with being Brother Love and those things too, Bruce helped us to have a formidable deal where we made millions of dollars over time. And the guys that are John and those guys that are doing it now, and by the way, I like what they're doing, and I called up and told Neil Lally, that's in charge of the WWE News Group, that I thought that John and his friend, the guitar player, that they're doing a great job. I love the Glorious theme, and I said, finally y'all found somebody that can really bring something to the table really fits the characters rather than just, generic guitar riffs over and over that don't mean anything. And I said, I think you should really hold on to those guys, and because they're very talented. And if somebody came to me and said, would you want these guys to do what you did? I would go, yes, I would, because they're doing a great job. But they don't make the money that we made. No one ever will. No one that ever does music ever, since us, will ever make the money that we did because of Bruce Pritchard and Vince and Linda owned the company then. Right. And the whole thing, but the money is not being made today that we made. It will never be made to that level ever again.
Listen, JJ, we're almost out of time. I want to give a shout out to Jim Phillips, who actually hooked us up. Yeah. Jim's a fantastic writer. He writes for the Gorilla Position, and he's become a really good friend of the show, and actually a very personal friend.
Great.
I would love for you to promote what you got coming up, and whatever you want to discuss, your wrestling organization, your book.
Yes, I'm the Mr. McMahon of our company, Kentucky Zone, Z-O-N-E Wrestling. I'm called Mr. Maguire, but I've had to knock a few heels down already. I'm a licensed wrestler in Kentucky. I'm in better shape than probably a quarter of our wrestlers, and even at my age.
Do you flip and fly? Do you flip
but what
and
I'm
flop?
getting at is we're this Saturday. We're at Kentucky Zone Wrestling. We perform every weekend all over the state. We raise more money for charity than any sports organization in Kentucky. And we just picked up a whole bunch of new sponsors and stuff. But we're down at the Aspire Center in Monticello, Kentucky this Saturday night. And then on the 30th of March, we have a huge double ring battle royale to die for. It's going to be a fabulous show. Plus, we have some new talent coming in. The American Giant is fixing to debut with us. We've got Lord Humongous from the Florida territories. We've got
is that Sid Vicious?
Barnabas
Is he back?
Spector coming in. We've got a lot of great talent. You can see a lot of this on Facebook on the Kentucky Zone Wrestling. You can also type in Hurricane JJ promos, and you can see a lot of this new talent that we're bringing in. But we're fixing to also, our show is going to be a streaming show for Roku and Twitch, and we're just in the process now of producing that, and I'm executive producer of what you're fixing to see here in about another month or so.
Wow, that's great. And your book?
My book will be out this summer. John Cosper wrote it, but Jim Phillips wrote, he interviewed Jimmy Hart, who did the foreword for me, and Jim Phillips comprised that foreword, which will be in the book, and Jim Phillips will be getting credit for writing what Jimmy Hart said about me in the foreword and everything.
Well, Monte the Pharaoh got a big month coming up. This Saturday, we've got Too Cold Scorpio and Billy Jack Haynes in studio, followed up by Tito Santana. JJ, you got any quick Billy Jack stories? I think you were around when Billy Jack was around, right?
Yes, I was. I didn't really ever get to know Billy Jack, but I always loved his character and all that. But I can't really make much comments on Billy other than just seeing him work, and I always loved what he did in the ring. That's about all that I really know Billy. I had talked to him a couple of times somewhere along the way in the back or something, but I never was able to really spend any quality time like I was able to with the other wrestlers. But now Jimmy Hart and I are probably the only outsiders that were ever let on the inside of the wrestling business, and we tried to contribute to everything. Jimmy Hart is one of the most brilliant people that's ever lived as far as the wrestling industry, and also in music and everything. Jimmy doesn't play any instruments, but Jimmy inspired me to write a lot of that classic stuff that you guys grew up on and other people enjoyed. And I'm just amazed. I want to close with saying this, that my son came home. I have a son and a daughter. My son is 15, and I have a daughter that's 13. And my son came home one day about 2 years ago from school and said, "Daddy, the kids at school are all asking me if your dad is that wrestling music man." He said, "Will you text these guys right here? I got this list of them and tell them it's the truth." I said, "Son, I will." I had walked away from all that. I figured that was just stuff that nobody cared about anymore. It was something that was pretty fun in the day, and thank you very much and good night. But I realized that if kids that young are interested, that maybe I should come back and tell my story and share it with the people, because I figured that people were interested. And I always say this, God gave me talent, so I took it to the greatest show on earth. unbelievably traveled the world with the greatest of all time, unbelievably entertained people of color in all walks of life. Who knew that wrestling is such a powerful force? I did.
Amen.
You know, one thing I learned,
Works for me.
you and Jimmy Hart have a great relationship and great loyalty. I just wish my partner had the same loyalty with me.
Oh, there he goes with his one-liners. Oh,
JJ,
boy.
thank you for joining,
Don't
and it's
worry,
been our pleasure.
he will.
When you come up to New
Don't
York,
count on it.
when you come up to New York, we'd love to have you in.
That'd be great.
Yes, sir. I may be at the Hall of Fame event because a quarter of the people that are being brought in, it's me playing the music and writing the music with Jimmy doing the lyrics. So I guess I need to be there.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you get in early, we've got 2 shows lined up on that Hall of Fame date. So I think we have Butch Reed in and Stan Hansen are in that day. So if you ever want to swing by, just come on by.
Doors open.
Yes, sir.
Again,
Thank you all so much.
Thank you
Really,
so
thank
much.
you all.
Thank
All right,
you,
I'll talk
JJ.
to you soon. Thank you.
Take care, brother. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Awesome.
What a pleasure, huh?
Yeah, that was great. He's a genius. What do you mean not loyal? I pulled Marty off of you. What else do I gotta do? This is unbelievable. What else do I gotta do? He probably would have sat there and been like, "You all right there, Jim?"
I got to side with the Pharaoh on this one.
What
That is true.
This is
I'll
hilarious.
tell you though, I was highly impressed.
He's a musical genius.
Well spoken,
very well spoken. I knew that though.
You know what?
That I knew.
Where his bread was buttered too, man.
Heck yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
And
Just
not
like
for nothing, that's a big loaf of bread.
Could you imagine the residuals that guy's making right now?
Yes.
Oh,
What do you think he's making right now?
sorry. I can't even imagine.
He's probably making $250 to $300 a year.
That's
$300.
300,000 a year.
What's that? What is he working, Frankie's?
Could you imagine 300,000? You write a couple of wrestling theme songs.
He didn't write a couple. He wrote 114.
I know.
He didn't get it right once. He got it right 114 times. Or,
One thing I did disagree
man.
with him about. I feel today's theme songs could run with any wrestler. They're not wrestler specific.
I think Glorious was perfect for Bobby.
But that could have been Nakamura's song.
That would have been dumb.
That's what it was originally written for.
Glorious.
Glorious.
I know,
It was
but
originally
wouldn't
written
have
for
fit.
him.
It wouldn't have fit. It fits Bobby. That's interesting. I don't know.
I don't know. I just think you could take these theme songs and throw them anywhere.
I love his guitar work on Sexy Boy. Holy moly.
Do you really?
Oh my God!
You know, I
when the
never
solo
looked at
kicks
it being
in,
like this
rips.
great music, but when
It is
you
great
talk
music.
about it, I
No,
guess
it
I
is.
really have no idea what
And the
good
fact that
music
he
is.
was playing, not to bore you, but the fact that he was playing a double bass drum in 1970, nobody was doing that. He's way ahead. He was way ahead. That's interesting. John Bonham used to make the sounds.
He has a major loyalty to Hogan, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. Why
Right?
wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? You know? And apparently he seems to like Vince too. He doesn't have any problems with Vince. It's business. You know? He was excellent. You want to touch on anything else that happened this week?
You guys want to make a quick run through before we shut it down?
Make a fast one?
Go
Well,
ahead.
you know, in major news, obviously, and I'm sure you guys saw, Roman Reigns came back. He's been cleared, remission from leukemia. Any thoughts on some of these people writing in it's a work?
It's called remission.
Yeah, I don't understand.
This
It's
poor
like
guy's going to
people
be fighting this disease the rest of his life. It's called remission. It's I'm happy for him.
You surprised he's back so quick. I was a little bit.
You know what? I think today's athlete takes care of themselves a lot better than a lot of us.
I mean,
look,
geez.
you know what? You exercise.
I worked out. I beat it. I mean, it's
I don't. I think it's not just working out. 80% of your life is what you put in your mouth.
Right.
Right, Pharaoh.
The fuck you asking me for?
I just asking.
Peter Pickle Smuggler? What are you fucking asking me for? Get the fuck out of here.
No,
What's next? I'm not loyal enough? Get off of him! The hell?
I think the guy takes care of himself, and I'll tell you what, him coming, it was needed.
Yeah.
It's almost like a perfect storm's coming, right?
Yeah.
You got Pritchard back in the organization.
They need him too.
He comes back.
Yeah.
I wanted to cover
Matt
with you
Hardy
one.
came back in shape. Did you see that?
I was happy
what
to see
that.
that.
The guy came back all
Two
jacked.
things I didn't like. I don't like the fact that they had these NXT guys blowing over the main roster.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I mean, so
they are good.
You know
they are
what?
top of
2
the line
episodes
over
on
there
5 Minutes
in
of the
NXT.
Pharaoh. You were very happy about
Revival winning the belts. They're
winning the
losing.
belts. And I mean, they just lose to some team that's
terrible.
put together.
Yeah, it's
terrible. Like, you know.
Bad. I didn't mind them losing to DIY. That's an established team from the past that they had a history with. But Ricochet and Black slapped together, beating them. Come on, now you're just embarrassing your champions and you're undermining them. I don't know how that works.
I will tell you this: the important. You know what I forgot? Do you remember when they retired the Intercontinental title?
Refresh me.
I read somewhere that they retired it some point in the.
When the heck did that happen?
I must have not have been watching, but I'm thinking to myself,
may have, but I don't.
Boy, oh boy, have they destroyed all these titles?
Yeah.
When you have your tag team champions getting beat by a minor league,
the AAA team.
Yeah, the AAA
That's
team
how
that
they-
doesn't even wrestle together.
Right.
And it's like,
Yeah, it's bad.
what are you doing?
Columbus beating the Yankees.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man.
But
It's bad.
I know what both
Unless
of you-
you've decided that they're no good, they're on their way out, and you're bringing up the next
Why
brand
didn't
of
you
guys.
just put the strap on them? 2 weeks later, they're no good. They're on their way out.
Well, you know what? Pritchard's in charge now. Maybe Pritchard wouldn't have put the straps on him, and he's just trying to finish the run.
I mean, is Pritchard now in charge over there? What's the story? How many writers do they have behind the scenes anyway?
I think they're getting away from this this Hollywood writing nonsense,
need
and
to.
they're getting into more wrestling stuff.
And on that note, I'm sure the two of you love the ending of Raw because Batista basically destroyed Ric Flair's 70th birthday party.
Sure.
That was great, right?
Yep.
No one saw that
But I
coming.
will tell you this: if they put Batista in the Hall of Fame, it ruins this whole storyline.
Why would they do that? This year? They're not doing that.
I hope not.
I can't see them doing that.
I hope
Why
not.
would
But if they
that?
do, then what?
Why, there was talk they were going to put him in this year?
Yeah, I had
That's
heard
a little
like a year
premature
ago.
anyway.
I mean, you still got the Hart Foundation possibly going in. You got to put a female in, right? Does China count as the female edition? No, right? She's part of the.
China's
GX.
not going in at all.
No, what I mean is that look, they have a certain
Not
strategy,
yet.
right?
Maybe someday.
An old school guy, a faction, a female, actor, actress, right?
Why
Someone
don't
famous.
they just pick who deserves it? I don't.
Because they're trying to get to every audience, I think. You know what
They're
I'm
trying
saying?
to check all the boxes.
Check all the. I don't disagree with it, but it's like, what female's going to go in, and who's the headline? Is DX the headline? Is that
Yes.
official? You think that's the headline?
That's the headline.
No chance of the NWO going in.
No.
You already got isn't the Hart Foundation going?
They haven't put him in yet. It's not necessarily true, right? Honky's in, so there's your old school guy, right?
Huh.
So who's your female?
I don't know. I have no idea who they'll put in. They shouldn't put one in just to put one in. That's BS. What, they're so loaded over there? Well, outside of China, how many others are you hearing them scream for on the women's side?
I keep
to
on
put in the
hearing
Hall of Fame?
Victoria's name getting called
What's
around.
so great about Victoria?
I'm just, I'm saying, But to go back to the original subject, I thought the Batista thing was old school, and I loved it.
Awesome watching Rick Flair get dragged like a bitch.
And they did it well because you couldn't
Yes,
beat up Flair, right? So you had to drag him, which I
You
thought was
can't
pretty
beat him
cool.
up because he's 100,
I
but you
agree.
got it. But dragging him like he's pathetic was kind of funny.
Do you think Triple H could still go after this injury?
Yes.
You better be careful, man.
He's a great. Listen, Triple H. Who was it? You that asked someone recently that if you thought that Shawn Michaels is the greatest of all time?
I never said Shawn's the greatest of all time.
I didn't.
No,
I
we were
could've sworn
asking
I heard
about who
something.
was the head of DX, and I said at the end of the day it was Triple H, body of work.
But how about body of work? Triple H against Shawn Michaels?
No, Shawn's greater.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Steve.
What?
Shawn's greater than Triple H.
Triple H,
No.
Shawn Michaels.
I think that Triple H. I don't know. I missed that era.
Where's his classics?
I
Shawn Michaels is Mr. WrestleMania. We just went over the greatest 10 matches. He was on half the list. Shawn Michaels blows away
Yeah.
Triple H. It's not even
Fair
close.
enough. Fair
Stop.
enough. Fair enough.
What's going on here?
You know what? I think.
You know,
I think
he is an all-time
I think Triple.
great, but
I
it's
think
not
Triple
Shawn.
H had a long extended career, a longer
He's,
extended.
you know
career.
what? I'll give him the credit for that is never said. During the Attitude Era, he was the foundation.
Yeah.
He was, because Stone Cold was getting injured and getting in fights with Vince, coming and going. We know how short his window was, Stone Cold. We also know that The Rock basically bolted for Hollywood during the Attitude Era. It was Triple H who was basically, and Taker probably, who were the constant guys that were always there. I got to get this in. I thought this was effing great. My favorite has returned. Kofi Kingston thought he had a title shot. Vince McMahon comes out and says, "No, you don't. He does.
Who called it?
Kevin Owens.
Who called it?
That was great.
Who called it?
That was great.
Mike Monte.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Kevin Owens, baby.
Thank you very much.
How you feel about KO coming back?
I was happy about it.
I love KO.
And I think KO is going to become the champion.
Good. Works for me.
And he looks bigger than ever.
You know, it's
tattoos
weird.
look terrible, though.
You know, it's weird. Actually, I actually like the tats. It's weird with the less weight on him. I almost wish he'd have it back. He's almost
he's pretty
His arms
big,
are
dude.
huge.
Pretty
his
big
arms
dude,
were always
man.
big. You know?
Yeah, he's a pretty big dude.
He is.
I'll tell you what. Overall, SmackDown, Raw, I give at least a B+ to both of them.
They were very good.
And
this
if it's
week.
on the upturn and they're going to play this, I'm very happy. It actually,
good this
I
week.
actually was watching the matches
Also.
and I'll even say this: I thought Moment of Bliss was actually pretty funny and pretty good.
Fans are pretty down on that segment, from what I'm reading. I think.
Well, that doesn't matter what they're. Who gives a shit what
I think it's
everybody
been
else
fine
thinks.
with Alexa.
Do you enjoy it,
yeah,
right?
I have no issue.
How about
with
you,
it.
Miller?
I do. I enjoy
How
watching.
about Ronda
Alexa.
laying the title down in front of Stephanie and then walking away?
That's one. Dude, I got to tell you though, who could have called that? Now that's some smart writing.
Yeah,
right. Because
it is.
guess what? I'm giving up the championship.
Rousey-
Now she can never lose the
Right.
championship.
But Ronda Rousey can't act.
I'm not a
She
fan.
always comes off as a petulant little kid.
I'm not a fan.
I want
I'm
it
not.
now. Like she's gonna step on.
Yeah, but
stamp her feet.
don't
I
you
can't
almost
stand
think?
it.
I understand
I
it.
agree. I'm not a fan.
I'm not a
They
fan.
extend
I'm
their
not.
conversation longer than they should. But I think
Yes.
there's this raw emotion that I get out of her that she really cares.
See, I think she's a horrendous actress. I think she comes off like a petulant little kid.
Compare her to Charlotte.
Charlotte.
When Charlotte's
Asuka,
Charlotte will stare into your living room. She's that good. She'll stare into your
Becky
living room
Lynch
and freeze you
is
out. She's
good.
so good.
Wait a minute, hold on. Okay,
What?
Charlotte, 100%.
Come on.
I'm going to that.
Amazing.
Stop with the Becky Lynch stuff.
Yeah, no.
She trips on the microphone
Oh, no,
nonstop
she
too.
trips,
okay.
but
She's
agreed.
nothing great.
Agreed. I don't
agree.
think
And
Ronda
I'm sorry,
Rousey's as
Ronda's
good
a
as
much better wrestler than Becky Lynch, in my opinion.
No.
My opinion, yes.
Nope. Ronda's a judo throw. Okay? Ronda's
Dude,
a judo throw.
I don't know.
Ronda's a
Ronda-
judo throw.
Ugh.
Becky Lynch is one of the four horsewomen.
I totally
wrestle.
disagree with you. She's
She's a
more than a
judo
judo
throw.
throw.
Mole.
She does a lot. She has a mole.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's got a mole and a
Mole.
mole off the top rope.
But no, dude, I gotta disagree with you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh, you're gonna play that game?
Yeah, why not? Don't worry, I got you
It
back.
was the Puppet Master.
It was.
The Puppet
We
Master.
all know it was. We were about to get to the bottom of it.
By
when
the
all
way,
of a sudden I
you
had to
didn't give
save you.
You don't even give me props for my
Whatever.
video. You don't even say a
What
word. How
video?
good is that fucking video?
What, the Puppet Master?
Yeah.
You just like it because you think I'm funny when I say it. Yeah.
It was a Puppet Master.
What'd you want me to say? Was the fat fuck from Farmingdale? What
Yeah.
the fuck did you want me
No,
to say?
I like the Puppet Master much better.
What? Well, now you're playing with real,
Oh no,
get the fuck out of
the
here.
streets.
The streets.
Can I
What is
just-
this? He just said he's the worst actor ever. I saw this.
You saw
post.
that on-
What is this?
How crazy!
He says,
is
I
that?
just saw myself and I suck. I'm
Can I-
the
you have
worst.
On Amazon, he put it. He gave himself
Oh,
one
my
star.
God.
You have 5 minutes with the Pharaoh. Can I have 10 seconds with Miller?
Yeah, sure.
I watched 3 minutes of that movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
I swear to God, it is literally the worst piece of shit I ever saw. And I mean, by calling it a piece of shit, I'm
You're
insulting shit.
Yeah, what are you doing? Leave shit
I'm
out
like-
of this.
How dare you insult shit?
I'm watching this and I'm like, all right, I gotta watch it.
But it's
just to
starring
say-
the Puppet Master.
No, it's
The
starring.
Puppet Master.
It's starring. Check it out. Check it out.
Hey,
Check it out.
I watched it.
By the way, hold on. I've got to ask you a few questions.
Ask away,
number
my
one,
friend.
number one, Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Your co-host Jennifer Runyon called you her little teabag last week. Which
Yes,
I
she
thought-
did.
How did that
are a
feel?
little teabag?
So your new nickname is Little Teabag.
No, not to you. To her.
No.
Little teabag.
You know how it felt?
Oh my God.
I nearly fainted from glee. You're my little teabag.
So
Like the horse in Animal House.
that's one. Then
the
Sunday you
legs off.
filled in for the still
Jim.
recovering Jim Savelli.
Yes.
You had
I had a long day.
you had a very long day. So how
Bro.
how was bro?
I love that.
How was it
Hilarious.
with what's his name? The
What?
check it out.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I have to be honest.
Go ahead.
I will be 100%
What?
honest.
What?
Mr.
Oh, hey, oh.
Mr. Comedian decided he was going to make some 9/11 jokes, and I don't like.
I didn't watch the show.
I don't
So
like
9/11 jokes.
Yeah, like about like, oh,
What's
these,
so funny
these
about
Arab guys. I tell them like, learn how to land, ha ha ha, and I'm
Are
like,
you serious?
watch the tape.
Oh my god!
And I just sat
dude.
here like this, like, not my circus,
No, yeah,
not
you're the
my
producer.
monkeys.
Yeah, I got
just
it.
At the board.
Not my
But
circus, not my monkey.
Put it this way: when you introduce to someone, like, oh,
What is that, teabag? What do you want to say?
What the fuck?
My little teabag.
You're like,
My little
when you
teabag.
introduce to someone, they say, Angel, this is Steve, and he just looks at you and goes, where's Jim? And I'm like, yeah, nice to fucking meet you too.
Where's
dude.
Jim?
Where's Jim? Check it out.
Check it out.
But he's the star of Carlito's Way and Scarface.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, because I was under the impression that Al Pacino was. That's
Me too. I thought so.
But I'm not Ciscolini, but
Hold
what do I
on.
know?
Wait a minute. I
Yes.
saw that guy in Carlito's Way
I
for
did
15
too.
seconds. 50. He was in it.
No,
15
he was
seconds.
in it. He
Scott
was in
Stamell?
it.
Oh, that's another film.
Check it out.
Check it
So
out.
anyway, you were
What's up,
talking
Scott?
about the streets on Amazon.
Hey.
I can't believe you saw that review. The funny thing is, I went and looked at the reviews, and they've got 9 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
Shockingly enough,
All from people in
all
the
from the
movie?
people in the movie.
Oh, there you
Dude,
go.
it is the worst thing I've ever. I've literally watched test patterns. Remember the old test patterns? That was like more entertaining.
Oh, look, this one looks like a water
Yeah,
tower.
look. Wow, it's sparkly.
I actually like the alerts that come on with the bars.
Yes, the emergency alert system. Yeah. Dude, I swear to God, no, I'm being honest. I watched for 10 minutes just out of like morbid curiosity.
You're morbid, all right.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is this?
Dude, wait a minute. Here's
enough.
the best.
Fair enough.
So it's season time again. We've had a little break with some of the pro wrestlers. So this Saturday we got Too
break.
Cold Scorpio and
Yeah,
Billy Jack
right
Hayes.
back
We
at
got
it. Check it
Tito
out.
Santana.
Yeah.
Got Coco Beware.
Yes.
We've got Stan Hansen.
The fat fuck from
We've
Farmingdale.
got Gangrel.
No, he's not coming?
No, he's not.
Oh,
But here's
okay.
the funny thing. It must be that wrestling season because he's posted all his 2016 videos of
Him making a
his
pizza.
paid-for pizza makers. It's like,
Dude,
my good
dude,
friends.
grow up
Dude,
already.
this has become the league of fucking idiots. We had the band. Me and Jim had that band Grim Jack on.
yeah.
And they were nice. They were good guys, right?
Yeah.
20 minutes after they were on, the douche from the other station, the old other station, puts up a picture of them from 2014. And I'm like,
that's 5
"Whoa,
years ago."
That's cool. You knew them 5 years
Oh
ago.
my God.
And this guy, every time I put up a picture with one of the guys you have here, it's like he puts up a picture of him with the same guy from 3 years ago.
It's
And I'm
like, it's just...
I'm
What are
bringing
you,
my
8?
Grim Jack cassette from 1986. I beat you all. What the,
Yeah.
what the fuck? I actually
It's like-
have one from
it's like-
Do you
Grim
really?
Jack. Yeah! I used to work with the original lead singer back in the 80s.
but it
Wait a minute. There's one other thing I learned about Mr. Miller today
that?
because
What'd
I
I
was
do?
very busy at work. Our own little teabag
What?
got molested in the bathroom by his baseball.
my baseball coach, yeah,
What?
when I was 14.
I never heard that
talking about?
stuff.
Motherfucker.
Oh
Came
my
up on me. I
God!
go to
Thank
take
God
a
the internet went out this afternoon.
I go
What are
to
you
take a
talking
leak,
about?
right? And the guy walks in the bathroom.
Give you a reach around.
No, and he freaking goes like that on my face. I punched him in the
What?
face, and I left. I was like, "What the fuck, dude?"
Whoa.
Yeah, I quit.
What was he looking for?
I'm learning such wonderful
Dude,
stuff.
Dude, my life
up,
is so fucked up.
Dude, what was that documentary you were talking about
it's
on
called
Netflix?
Abducted in Plain Sight.
It's on Netflix.
It is shocking. It is so fucked up. Well, it's 9:30, so we could curse, but it's.
I was cursing at 8:15
Yeah,
this
I
morning.
know. Well, but it was so dicked up. You have to see it, and you're like,
I'm gonna watch it when I get home.
what? That's basically
Okay.
it. Yeah. So, yeah. So that's it.
You're my little teabag.
Yo,
Would
my-
you please?
That's dicked
my
up,
little-
man.
you're my
Dude,
little
if Jennifer
teabag.
Runyon called you a little teabag, you'd be like,
Dude,
What
you
is
don't
wrong
understand.
with me? I wouldn't do that.
Every Thursday at 3 o'clock.
What?
Like, I have a lot of stuff to do, as you know.
Yes.
I lock my
Yeah.
doors. I
Got a
just
lot of
knock one
idiots
out
to
real
take
quick.
care of.
I actually like still
yeah, but
frame
then
it.
Jen comes on.
Oh, my little teabag. Well, since I know that your coach had his way with you, I'm like,
He didn't touch me that bad.
Sure, he didn't.
No, he did not.
He gave you duty finger on your cheek. What are you talking about?
Ugh.
Oh, so cute.
Dude, I tell you, man.
I'm like an onion. You
There's a
keep
couple. There's a
peeling away all
couple.
the layers.
Excuse me if I'm offending anybody, but there's
You're
a couple.
offending me.
I even shared with
What?
you today too.
What?
Runyon is one beautiful lady.
Yes.
And then also is that glow.
Ooh.
Also is the glow girl.
Back to Hollywood.
Hollywood is freaking awesome.
Hollywood.
She's so.
What happened to your theory, though, that they have to be 10?
What do you?
You know? What's your theory? Oh, they're too old.
It was the Puppet Master.
That's right.
The Puppet Master.
Was? Here you go, you lush. Have another drink. Here you go.
I could listen to that puppet. I could listen to that.
Feeding the sick.
I could listen to that Puppet Master line 24/7.
It is what it is. But my favorite
You've had
line,
some classic lines.
My favorite line is, I could go for that shit. I could go for that shit. Pop. It's hilarious. And I just stood there. I'm like, go ahead. He goes right past me, hits him. I'm like, why did I just stand there and watch this?
The Puppet.
What a good movie.
You know, Pharaoh, I gotta tell you.
What?
So I download all the videos. I've got so many great clips of Pharaoh. I could put like a 5-minute clips of just the body moves and the sayings.
The gyrations.
Oh my God.
You know,
I'm gonna put it out on DVD.
You know,
5 minutes with the Pharaoh. No, 5 hours with the Pharaoh.
5 hours.
Produced by the little
collection.
teabag.
What?
You're my little teabag. I love you.
That's fucked up.
You're my little teabag. Anyway, we're gonna end the show, but this Saturday, Billy Jack Haynes,
a
week from
Too
Saturday.
Cold Sky.
A
week from Saturday. I will tell you the reason I brought up Billy Jack Haynes to JJ was Billy
Oh boy,
hates Hogan.
Oh boy,
like hates Vince McMahon.
Oh boy.
Don't expect just like a normal, hey, Billy. It'll be like we said, a couple of minutes, and then just let's go home with this right away. Let's just go after it right away because
might as well.
You know, you can have 90 minutes of fun with this dude for sure.
For shizzle my nizzle.
For shizzle my nizzle. You know, you got to convince the Pharaoh, right?
Yes.
Jesse Ventura is in. We've got lots of friends now in the wrestling biz.
Yes.
And Jesse Ventura is in Queens. Jesse never comes around here. I'm trying to convince this guy to go with me.
You're not getting me up.
And he's like,
I
don't want to get up in the morning.
I'm not getting up at 5:30.
How about 6 o'clock in the morning?
No, you're not getting me up that early.
7.
No.
8.
Nope.
Oh, man,
Nope.
this guy.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not.
The Puppet Master.
When I go to bed, I close my coffin lid. I'm not getting up when you're... No way.
All right, anyway. Billy, you want to send us...
Puppet Master!
You know, I put this video out. People are cheering how great this video... You got to even admit, how great is that video?
It's great.
It's great.
Which one? Bro. I love that one.
That's a good one, too.
That's
No,
a good one.
our one.
What?
I made one for us.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that one.
And people love it.
I agree with that shit.
And he don't like it because he doesn't like the Puppet Master.
I haven't said a word one way or the other on it.
All right, we're out before the alarm goes off.
All right. Anyway, catch Monte the Pharaoh next Thursday, 8:05 to 9 p.m. And then we've got a double shot on Saturday. Too Cold Scorpio, Billy Jack Haynes. Neither one of these guys are in this area. It's going to be a great interview. By the way, gaining a lot of new fans. People are enjoying the show.
Yeah,
we appreciate everybody tuning in. We love doing it. And then we have a boatload, I think, Coco Beware on a Thursday. Anyway, you go to the Monte the Pharaoh page. You'll be able to see everything. Wishing Jim Savelli a speedy recovery. He's been out for a while. I know he's chomping at the bit to get back to his station. I know our little teabag is, too. So, anyway, for Monte and the Pharaoh and our little teabag, we'll catch you next week.
Tito Santana. Catch Monte and the Pharaoh, 8:05 to 9 p.m. every Thursday on Village Connection Radio. Arriba!
Magnificent Mike? Really? Wow, you're gonna have to work a lot harder to impress the goddess of WWE, Alexa Bliss. Sorry, Mike.